Prof E plays. I'm Prof E, and we're going to be picking up here with Cepheus Universal, following Wilbur Orla and his friends, Garrett Damocles and Hazel Perrin, as they are continuing their trek across the subsector toward the capital of Matsuyama. So last time they had a little mission on Ilvepra. They left again and are now flying by. This is what Zillianus is what I named it. Right, so Zillianus is um, it's a small world, technically an asteroid. So just to give you a little bit of background on where they're going to be waking up out of cryosleep. So what we know about this world. One, it is a captive world in terms of its government, which I took to mean that it is ruled directly by Matsuyama. So Matsuyama has bureaucrats over this area. It has no atmosphere, no water, right? So it is, in some sense, a desert world. So it's vacuum as far as that goes, and it's an asteroid. So in terms of the law level, it's fairly high. That would not super high, but fairly high, reflecting, I think, the bureaucratic mindset you find on Matsuyama, which is an extremely draconian um, legal system. So it was really founded, though, this little colony, just a few people here, for two reasons. One would being that it is a mining colony, so we're here on an asteroid, we're mining whatever resources happen to be in that asteroid, which then would, I assume, or be taken back to Matsuyama, or perhaps onto Tanis. Uh, then another thing we know about it is that it was founded in part to be a stopover for ships, because we know that Matsuyama really doesn't have a lot of star bases. That's it. Yeah, so star bases nearby. I mean, you look. Okay, there's one right just to the, I guess, galactic south, I'll call it, of it. But then we have this big gap here. Right? There is one here, and like you could go this direction and end up um, with bases, with starports, but you also see that they have no gas giants here, right? So an alternative path then, right, is coming down this one where you don't have starports, but you do have gas giants, which allow you to have unrefined fuel, which then you can refine on ship so that you can make it wherever it is you wish to go. So I think that that is, just by necessity, you're going to have to be doing this process anyway for the first couple jumps, unless you have a really strong jump drive that can get you all the way from Masuyama to whatever this place is. There's a scout base there, but that's it. So I think it makes sense here that this would be, in effect, a sort of rest stop. Right? That'd be part of the reason that this was founded. So that is where we're going to be waking up, but first, we do have to actually wake up, right? So let's go ahead and check that. As we come out of cryosleep, I'm again assuming there are medics nearby that can help with this process. So you get a +4 on this. You need to get a 6 or higher, which means then because we're rolling 2d6, you're automatically going to get 6 combined there, as long as you don't have a negative modifier. As we mentioned before, Wilbur is the one member of our party that does have a negative modifier, so let's go ahead and roll for him. As long as he doesn't roll a 2, we're fine. He didn't roll a 2, we're fine. All right, so Wilbur does manage to come out of cryosleep. And then we have a new mission here. So let's find out what mission we're going to have based on rolling on our patron tables. All right. So let's see what kind of mission is available here so we can earn a little bit of money to help us make the next jump. Now, one thing, remember each of these jumps is going to cost us 4,000 total because we have the three people and then also our robot that is coming with us. And I figured I'll just treat it as a passenger in terms of the cost. Right, but when I add things up here, so we're going to need another what? We have one, two, three. So we're going to need another 12,000 credits to get there. We definitely do not have that between us. What we have 1,800 for Hazel, 1,900 for Garrett Damocles. So the two of them combined are less than 4,000, less than another 4,000 from Wilbur. So we have not quite enough for two more jumps, right? So we're going to have to do something about that. And that something is, of course, patron. Right, so let's look at what this patron is going to be offering us and who the patron is using the mission machine. All right. So patron encounter. Oh, yeah, we'll just do left to right. So 65. It's a police officer. Oh, okay. We know the law level's fairly high here. So a police officer wants us to, again, we'll just go left to right. 51. Find missing goods. Oh, this seems fair. Okay. And what's the target? 33. The order doesn't matter there. Illegal cargo. Okay. So this all like sometimes you roll these prompts and they don't really fit together very well. This one all fits together quite well because we have here, right, so we have a police officer who I should probably come up with a name for. Right? I should always just have my random name generator ready to go, but I never do. If you've been watching my channel at all, you know that's preparing for this is not something that I do typically. All right, so what is the name of this person? Jennifer Marga. Police officer Jennifer Marga, right, wants us to find missing goods, specifically missing illegal cargo. So that is that. Now we're keeping it simple, so that means that this cargo should be somewhere on this fairly small station. It's really just designed to be a stopover point. I'm guessing there are like some quarters, perhaps, that you could rent. Otherwise, there'd be no way for you to really stop over here. So there would be some like guest quarters, right, for us to have, a couple transports coming through. There are places for them to sleep whoever happens to be on these transports. Uh, but it's a fairly small place. So that's what we need to do. We need to figure out who took this stuff, most importantly, where do they have it? Because we want to find the missing cargo. That's really our main mission here. So let's see what skills we have that could potentially help us to solve this mission. So looking then at Wilbur, right, so his greatest skill is forgery, which doesn't seem particularly useful. But he also has some computer and some carousing. Carousing could be useful for getting information. So I'm going to just make a mental note of that before I commit to a plan. Meanwhile, Garrett Damocles, I mean, wouldn't if things get violent, he's our man. The problem is that um, I don't think much of what he has would be allowed. He could carry his knife with him, but I don't know that that's necessarily the best skill here. Um, I'm just looking at his skills, they're mostly combat related. Given the high law level, I think we're probably going to avoid combat, especially because the police officer just wants us to locate the missing cargo, not necessarily to secure the missing cargo. So I think it makes sense that we're going to try to avoid combat. That is also generally going to be the case in Cepheus, just because um, combat is one of those things in the system where my experience with it is that there's a lot of missing that can happen, but when a hit happens, it tends to kill. So you try not to get into combat if you can avoid it. Meanwhile, we have Hazel has navigation, carousing, vac suit, and broker are her skills. There's carousing again, right? So we have a couple carousings that could be used. Um, I guess maybe computer for Wilbur and carousing for Hazel, and I don't see anything for Garrett. So I think we're just going to go with the two of them. After all, it's up to three. Wilbur and Hazel. So Wilbur's going to do some computer work. He's going to see if he can locate like security cameras, that kind of stuff, to see if he can figure out right who it is. And Hazel is going to go the more old-fashioned route, right, carousing it in the evening in whatever kind of eatery they have here on this mining colony. Is going to be trying to gather information in some sense the old-fashioned way. So that is what we're doing. Each of this is just a level one, right? So the odds of somebody failing is reasonably high. So let's see if that's what happens. All right. So Wilbur, if this computer roll has 5 plus 1, that's a 6. We need an 8. So fail. And then how about Hazel? Hazel gets also a +1. 7 plus 1 is an 8. Okay, so there we go. So putting all of this information into our mission machine. Um, so we are rolling now to succeed. It's a 2d6. A 7 or higher indicates the mission goal was achieved. That is, we did actually find the thing, likely through Hazel's efforts, I would suggest. Oh, we got a 4 plus 1, that's 5. That is a failure, right? So mission failed. All right. Well, that's not fantastic, let me tell you that. Okay, so we also have a consequence. Because Wilbur's computer use failed, we need to roll on the consequence table. 6. There's a sudden twist in the story. All right. So here's what I'm thinking about. So these are the elements we need to put together. We have our police officer, Jennifer Marga. Marga? Yeah, I can't read my own writing. Marga. Okay. Yeah, so Marga. Marga. Okay, Jennifer Marga comes to our travelers and asks them, right? Says, we don't have a very large force here. There aren't very many of us here. We need your help. There's been some illegal contraband that we had seized that has now gone missing. We need you to go find it if possible. If you can do that, we can pay you 800 apiece in order to do this for us. So yes, okay, we're happy to do this. So what happens? Well, Wilbur uses some of his computer abilities, right, to try to seek out if they can get security camera footage or something like that. And he doesn't actually find that. Instead, what he finds something else, right, that creates some kind of twist in the story. Now, what are the elements that we have here that could potentially be related to a twist? One thing is that okay, well, let's also think about Hazel. So Hazel's carousing. I think Hazel actually gets a reasonable lead because she succeeded on her role, right? So Hazel has some idea who it might possibly be. Okay, let's actually reverse the order in which these happened. So Hazel does the carousing, right? It's talking people up, right? And manages to actually get some information that might potentially lead to where the stuff is located. Then Wilbur's trying to confirm this, right, with his computer work. What he discovers is that something else happened. There's some twist in the story that makes it so this isn't actually what happens. Um, so they would end up failing. I think the most obvious thing is that Jennifer Marga is actually the one, right, who took the illegal cargo. Right? So what he actually can figure out, right, is that she knew where it was. I think perhaps what we find out is that Hazel's lead in terms of where it may be was actually correct in that the whatever the cargo was, let's say it's on a spice or something like that, was um, was actually in some location where she got the right information. And when Wilbur checks the security cameras, what he finds out, right, is that it's not in fact missing at all. In fact, it is Jennifer Margaret has hidden this and has been interacting with it in some way, presumably is actually dealing it. So I think what is happening here, the story that we've uncovered, is that uh, Jennifer Marga, police officer, is actually just trying to kind of like cover her tracks by hiring people who don't really have any particular expertise. Let's be honest, like none of these people were in law enforcement or anything like that, right? So she's hiring people hoping that they're going to say, well, we can't find it. She expects them, right, to fail. In fact, they did find it, but there's this twist in the story. They found out that she was the one dealing. So now the question is, what is going to happen to them because of them discovering this? So there are a couple possibilities that I can think of. Right. So one possibility is that maybe she falsely accuses them, relatively high law level. It's not impossible this kind of thing might happen. So she might falsely accuse them, right? Throw them in the brig, something like that. So we could end up with a storyline going that direction. But there's another way this could go, and that is they blackmail her. It's not impossible, right? So it's not impossible. Okay. Just had to make a note of it. It's not impossible. All right. So maybe that's the direction it could go instead. Because I don't see anything in like our party's backgrounds that suggest they're like necessarily these lawful good types that are not going to be willing to do. I mean, for goodness sakes, look at Wilbur's skills. I mean, his highest skill is forgery. So, so I could see bribery perhaps inverting that skill to um, asking for a bribe. In fact, a bribe that looks very much like what they would have been paid anyway. So I think maybe that's what we're going to try doing instead. See if that actually works. I like this approach. I think this is a nice little twist on the way the mission machine can work. So that is where we end up with. What we end up. So our three confront um, Jennifer Marga. Say, well, okay, we know where the stuff actually is. We know what has been happening. So why don't you just give us a cut, very much like we found what you paid us to find. Right? You can say we said whatever. We don't particularly care, to be perfectly honest. But it's going to cost you, right? And not only that, this is pretty risky. So I think it makes sense if we go back. So if there is particular risk involved, right, then what do? We double the fee. So I think maybe that's what we're going to do. We're going to say, okay, but it's going to cost you a little bit more than would normally be agreed. Right, so it's going to be 1,600 a piece, right, for us to play this game. So the question is Jennifer Marga um, going to accept these terms? So for that, I think that okay, there are a couple ways that I could imagine this working. So I want to actually pull out my job descriptions. I almost said no, skill descriptions, because there are a few skills that might potentially be relevant here, and I want to make sure that I'm using the appropriate one. Although it's also something when I look at the skills, and it's the same skill level for all of them. It really doesn't particularly matter. Okay, so bribery will be offering bribes to circumvent local law or to influence someone's decision. A cash bribe must be appropriate to the situation. So this would be negotiating for that. Where brokers locating buyers and sellers, facilitating purchase and sale of commercial goods, haggling, bartering, so forth. Now I think the problem is that streetwise, which is more about like the criminal world, is perhaps more relevant than either of these. Yeah, that's as close as we can get. Right, so I think I might be inclined to say we can go ahead and roll this without penalty. I think we have enough familiar with that, but I don't think the levels are going to apply. So I think that that's what we're going to do. So Wilbur is going to go ahead. It's going to make the attempt to and this is equivalent, I think, to bribery, but the level doesn't apply. So I'm just going to say that it's at a plus 0, 8 or higher, it succeeds. And we got a 9. Okay, that's good enough. All right, so we did manage then to convince Jennifer Marga. So we accept a bribe, right, to cover up Marga's illegal spice trade. And that is that. So it's 1,600 each. Yeah. So of that 1,600 each, we know that they're going to have to be spending some just to spend some time here. I think it's like 50 credits a day or something like that. So they're probably going to be here about a week, something like that, maybe. So what did I come to 350 each. That's what I did last. I don't even remember how I did the math last time. Oh, here it is. Minus. Oh no, I just had it like it was overnight. It's minus 50 each. So we got 50. So 1,600 each, minus 50 each for just the overnight stay, and then they're going to be off on their way the next day, continuing to head toward Masuyama. So next time, our next stop is going to be at this planet of 707, which I have not yet named. I'll do that off camera. But for now, we have very much determined that our travelers are not particularly interested in being lawful good whatsoever. All right, well, that's okay. Hey, soliciting bribes. Why not? So I'm gonna call it there. So for now, this is Prof E signing off.